cold is not much of a problem for me. Although the other day we went surfing and it was like 5 degrees, and I nearly lost my hands.
It sounds like cold is a problem for you.
Hello and welcome to the UK Surf Show. We are your hosts. I'm Pete.
And I'm Mitch, and on today's episode, something a bit different, Pete, I think.
I lost it. What is it? Did you get what I did there? Did you get what I did there?
Oh,
I lost it.
It took me a little while there.
Lost shore, Lost shore.
Lost in translation, Pete.
Yeah. Lost shore surf resort. Now, this is basically a wave garden in Scotland, freezing cold Edinburgh. And we got to speak to the guy behind it who started it and a load of the team as well.
Absolutely. So Andy Haddon, the founder, and a long-time visionary of this very, surf lake in Scotland. I mean, what a big deal. And the team behind it, just an insane bunch of incredibly talented individuals.
You're saying that now because you work there now as well.
Well, that's a nice little plug as well. Yeah, I guess, for UK Surf Show fans who clearly have an invested interest in me. This week at date of recording, I've just completed day 2 in my social media magnate role with Lost Shore, but in no way does that make me biased. But when we recorded these,
anybody that listens to you just know everyone knows you're biased for anything you want to choose. Anything with the word Scotland in it, you're biased towards it.
And that's how it should be, though. I expect you should be the same, Pete.
For what? English? You can't do it with English. People have a go at you.
So when we recorded with the team, it's worth pointing out, this was way back in February. So this was a while ago. So this episode's going to be probably a little bit more disjointed than other ones. Yeah.
So, we recorded Andy this morning. You were with him, and I was at my home here because he wasn't available when I was up in February.
With your magic carpet flying behind you on the wall.
And with my magic carpet on the wall, that's fine. No one can see that, so they don't know what you're on about. So the other part of it was recorded in February. So what we'll probably do is drop Andy in, and then we'll come back, and then we'll drop the rest of it in. So let's just take it away with Andy and see what he has to say first of all, yeah?
Yeah, let's do that. And if there's any issues with the audio, just to let you know, it was a bit of a random setup today. So the audio with myself and Andy in that segment might sound a little bit tinny.
Shall we just let this young fellow here introduce himself, the one that wants to get into social media, because you get to keep all his hair like you then, Mitch. But
yeah, let's do it. Well, thanks for that introduction. I've not taken my cap off yet, so you won't see that I'm bald as a coot. I'm Andy Haddon. I founded the Lost Shore Surf Resort up in Scotland a long time ago now. And like you say, we're embracing the roller coaster that's social media now, which is all very exciting.
Yeah, and I hear you've got, I don't even know, you'd have to create some sort of new role title you've got like a social media hero, titan, mogul on board.
I don't know if any of those adjectives would suit if you saw us day to day. Maybe that's what we'll try to portray.
Yeah.
To our paying custom. But no, I think it's a bit grittier than that. But yeah, we'll be learning a few things off you, I think, Mitch.
Yeah, well, I hope to deliver as well. So pressure is on.
Good man.
But so I guess for people listening, previously known as Wave Garden Scotland. There's been a change in name, so some people might not be aware. Now called Lost Shore Surf Resort. Presumably, people will say Lost Shore. The reason for the name change?
There's a few reasons. In the early years when I was setting this up, I really wanted to dedicate, my life and those that were helping around me wanted to dedicate their lives to making sure this thing happened. That was the most important thing for us. Make sure it happened and hopefully happen in a way that allows us to, install some values in our DNA that we can really hopefully try to show during the long-term venture. But we had at that time, our friends in the Basque Country, Wave Garden, they would say, what are you calling yourself? If you got all your branding experts and your naming experts and everything, says no, because I know we're an interesting project, and I know, we're quite unique and people want to know about us, but the last thing I want to do is spend time and energy, and everything we do is time and energy on things like that until we really know for sure we're happening. And that meant raising the funds, obviously getting through it meant buying the land, it meant getting through planning permissions, it meant raising the funds, and it meant getting on site. And at that point, after a wee bit of sort of what are you doing with your name stuff, is this a franchise? Everyone's bloody confused. We said, right, let's do it, and let's try and do it properly. And it was that point that we brought in some good people, some good local people. We came up with our branding, and we launched at the end of last year. Changed our name.
Yeah,
and it's clearly not an overnight project. These things don't just appear, and maybe people don't appreciate the background. So I'm wondering when did this idea even come in your head?
I was very lucky, actually, because in a sense, I was a surveyor by trade, so I worked for a company called Colliers International, and like half of the Western world, I was made redundant after the recession, and was told in no uncertain terms that if I wanted a job, I had to move to Birmingham. And that to me was a little devastating at the time, because I had quite a nice life. Up here in Edinburgh, I had my friends, my family. I just thought, I was going to go through life like that. And having to move on my own to Birmingham, where I knew nobody, in my mid-20s, it felt like a big thing. Bit of a first world problem, but it felt like a big thing for me. But I was put into their insolvency department. It was the best thing that could have happened to me, because basically what I did down there was help some very good people. I had some good bosses at that time, help companies in distress situations out of trouble, or essentially have to sell their assets. Right. So it was quite grim, but a great learning experience. But during that time, I really used surfing as my crux. I came from a very sporting background, a sporting family, but I would head off and surf in UK or in West Bay in Wales and things like that. And so then when I got a company email saying there's a study going on for a surf lagoon in Wales, and it was our head of destination consulting, a guy called Sean Young, who now works for Wavegarden, actually, going back, but he worked at Colliers. He was head of destination consulting. That email went to all the thousands of employees, but when I saw it, I phoned Sean up and I was like, man, this sounds like bullshit. He was like a far more credible guy than me. He said, Andy, I've met these guys in the Basque Country. They're, they're credible. They're great. I said, yeah, is it like one of those things on the back of a ship? This isn't actually surfing. Come on. Andy, no, it's real. I said, go on, Sean, can you get me in? Go on, if I pay for my flights, can you get me in? He said, God, all right, fine. So anyway, that's how it all started. And Sean, to his eternal credit, somehow said to Wavegarden that I was a credible guy myself. I certainly wasn't, but he somehow convinced them to let me on the site. And it was from I basically went out there, got on the piss with Fernando at Wavegarden. He asked me numerous times if I had the money. I told him numerous times I didn't, and we took it from there.
Okay. I mean, that's how all gets going to start, isn't it?
Yeah. So from that, going from that, and then like seeing other Wavegardens pop up, and let me take, for example, the Wavegarden in Bristol pop up, and you've seen how stressful that's been for people involved. Did that change your mind at all about setting your own one up, or did it push you further, or like did you learn from it?
Yeah, the last one you said, you learn from it. All these situations you learn from. In my experience in setting up business, this is the second business I've set up. We're sat in the other one at the moment. I started that from scratch, and one thing that's become clear is that you learn most from your own failures, and you also learn from when you look at others and you see how they're addressing their problems and how they're failing and how maybe you could do things differently. So it was very important for me to pay attention over those early years to what others were doing. And I was going through those similar stresses. I was doing them sort of quietly up here. But when I could see them happening to others around the world, and I could see how these founders, these really good people like, people like Nick, fantastic guys, and, seeing what happened to him and seeing stress he goes through, it does make you it does make you sort of question what you're doing, and it makes you think, well, how can I do this in a way that is maybe more manageable up here for us? The answer is there's no easy way. The real answer is to get one of these things up and running in the current marketplace. It'll be a lot easier in future years, but in the current marketplace, you're just constantly in a trench. But you can start to enjoy that feeling because you also get a lot of wins. You know, you also get a lot of moments in the office. Or, you know, there's not many jobs you go to where you find yourself hugging people in the office and you find yourself hitting the desk, and it can be a roller coaster. And certainly, you know, it pays its toll emotionally, but you have to love it. You have to love getting up every day and fighting for something you believe in and persevering. And if you didn't love that, well, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it.
Yeah. I like the fact people say, like, I've heard people say, well, the waveguarding technology actually doesn't cost that much. You know, if you want to set one up, you could actually get the waveguarding technology for like relatively cheap compared to the whole thing of it. And then you see the sort of stress that goes with it. You just think, good luck with that.
I think you're almost suggesting you're going to do one yourself.
Oh yeah, I'm going to build one in my back garden. You know, just going to chuck a few of my millions at it and put one in my back garden.
What I liked, Andy, we first met, I mean, it must have been 2017. You'd done a talk at the Finisterre store in Edinburgh, and I think it might have been the first public talk about, at the time, waveguarding Scotland, and sort of public forum. You were talking about it, people asking questions. And, you know, even then for me, same sort of thing. I was like, there's no way that's going to happen in Scotland. I don't believe it. Having been to the site, you know, in the last few days, I see the magnitude of this process that's going on, and the scale, Pete, is something else. Like, it's really impressive. And what I've seen in that time, the kind of team you have around you, and this isn't now about me, the team you've built around you, though, are so, from the outside looking in, seemingly credible and sort of relate to your vision and the brand sort of ethos that I suppose you would want. And I guess that's through a careful selection, or maybe the right people being in the right place at the right time.
I mean, you know, like, through both the businesses I've set up, so this one and the business centre we're sitting in, and then obviously the Wavegun project, which feels like my lifetime project. I've rarely gone through a recruitment agent, and I think that the reason being is that the thing that's got us to success so far is our relationships. And so everyone that's come on board, from the likes of Chris Bain, who's my sort of like partner in crime, and people often, even my friends, say, "What does Chris do?" Right? And I'm like, Chris does everything. You know, what do you mean by everything? Wasn't he a videographer in his old life? Said, Chris is currently managing the only construction project in the UK that's on time, pretty much on budget. And he does it because he's good with people. He's got common sense. He gets up and goes. He knows when to ask for advice. He knows when to give advice. These are things that can't be taught, and these are things that come through years of communicating. Me and Chris have a very good way of communicating with each other. We used to play rugby together, so without knowing it, he was passing me the ball for 10 years. So I was constantly having to tell him, you know, I'm short, I'm long, get a move on. He was constantly,
I'm in the car.
You don't realise, you get on the bit, sub off. You don't realise, you learn ways of communicating that can't go on to a CV. And that's happened with the likes of Mark Stewart. You know, in the early years, he would just come and have a look at our planning processes. When he worked at Freeze, said, who are this competitor in the market? You know, he's surf retail. And then you end up getting to know the guy, and you go, well, wait a minute, this guy, he's got a CV, but he grew up on a farm, so he's common sense. He knows exactly how to fix problems. He's got a really good bedside manner. You know everyone likes him. He's got a calm way about him. These things are important, you know, especially at the levels of business we're doing. And these are actually the things that really help. You know, Ian Williams. I mean, the list goes on. Alejandro. It's just the guys that are doing our events. Jenny and Peter, Michelle. These are all not old friends. Chris is an old friend. Everyone else that's come on board, it's just I've known them somehow over the years. Nicola, you know, my executive assistant. But it's actually the way they communicate and buy into the bigger goal that's what you need at this stage. You don't need the best CV in the world to do what we do. you just need to be able to interrogate each other daily, not get pissed off with each other, not be an echo chamber, and all kind of really put the project above themselves. I think that's it. Just absolutely put the delivery of Lost Shore above anything you do yourself.
So on that point, I'm just going to say it, put it out there. You're sure you're going to want Mitch on your team, because he's going to ask you for shit all the time for social media stuff. He's going to be like, right, you've got to do this. Do you want this? And he's just going to have to end up just burying him under the pool, you know? Be like Fred West, Wave Gardens. Like, just.
I tell you what, if he keeps putting his hand through his quiff like he does every 30 seconds, he's not going to last long in the office. But honestly speaking, right? Mitch is a good example. Seb's a good example, right? Mitch is a great example of a guy who a lot of people want to get involved in this project, and it's funny because a lot of people, for years, it was me out my begging bowl. Please come and help. Please come and help. And I'm still like that. Actually, I'm still like that with the banks.
Yeah.
But now I get a lot of interest. Come work for the project, and actually for me, you have to have a real grit and a real determination to be part of our team.
Yeah.
And I think even if you don't mind me saying, Mitch, when I first came across you, what I could see was, polished social media stuff we didn't really know too much about. I didn't really know who Mitch was. I hadn't really seen him too much on the Scottish surfing scene, you know what I mean, at that time. And it was very clear to me that Mitch has all the attributes to help a project like ours. Yeah. But actually, if he can't prove to himself and to us that he's willing to go out into a marketplace, which he's done, and fight to create his own career, that's what he's done, and gain respect of what is a very parochial Scottish surfing community, frankly. Yeah. Very parochial. And those things don't come flash in the pan. And the way Mitch has gone out and he's helped the Scottish Surfing Federation, he's built his own career in this. They're the attributes that I was looking for, more than just, lots of people can do social media, more than anything. Yeah. And so when that point came, it's just been a pleasure having Mitch on, really, and teach us a few things about how to, polish us up, make us look social media savvy.
I was going to say... Yeah, I was going to say that fucking backfired. You just ended up saying nice stuff about him.
I can't believe we're finished. Keep it coming.
Have you had any points at this so far? Because, like we said, we will keep this one shorter because we've spoken to all the team, but we will do a dedicated episode to you further down the line. But have you had any points so far when you've thought to yourself, do you know what? Is this really fucking worth it? Is this worth all the stress?
Not real, no. Yeah, on the face of it, yeah, because when you've got people shouting at you, and when you can see, there's people that you love around you, that even when you hear the words coming out of your mouth, this doesn't sound credible enough. Yeah. But the information that was very clear to me from day one was, I love surfing, right? And I thought, well, surfing is going to be around forever. There's a bet. Let's see, it's a bet. Okay, now cold water surfing is going to be around forever because wetsuits have got a hell of a lot better. So no one's going to suddenly go, surfing. Everyone collectively goes, surfing's actually not that fun and not that good for you. So it's easy bet. So then the next bet is our Wavegarden market leaders. And what I loved about Wavegarden, and what I still say to this day, is that a bit like maybe us as a project, we tried to do our work in the shadows for years. And from 2004 to about 2011, Wavegarden, what they were doing those years, no kudos, no nothing, failure after failure after failure. That's what attracted to me then. So in 2012-13, when I actually got to know them, and they told me that story, and they said, but you just watch, because it's not that there can be other technology companies that can't necessarily do this, and you're seeing that materials in the market. But no one can build sites on this scale with this much moving water without failing a few times. For sure, you can't do. You can have all the fluid dynamic engineers in the world telling you that this is going to look like this, but until you've ran multiple millions of cycles in real life situations, there's a reality to the commerciality not being there. And what you need to raise money on these projects is commercial credibility, because the banks and the pension funds don't care nearly as much about surfing as what we do. They want to know the obsolescence of a bolt if something goes wrong in 3.5 years' time, and you have to tell them, and you have to be very clear with them about that. Or certainly not me, but our engineers do. So when you make those bets in the early years, and then you say, well, I lived through a recession where people were starting to change what they wanted in life, even after 2008. The pandemic's fast-tracked that, but I went through my own version of that. And I could see the world moving towards staycation. Why holiday abroad all the time when you've got great places in the UK? And I could see it moving towards outdoor pursuits and just people wanting their mental health and people understanding that they can't control their own futures, because if you work in a big company and they change strategy, you're out the door.
Yeah.
So there was going to be a lot more people go, well, if I can't be rich, then what can I have? I can live by the sea. No one can stop me doing that. No one can stop me surfing.
Yeah.
So when I really truly believed those things in 2014, 15, the rest is history. Yeah. The rest is just, even now, the rest is just, this is the easy or the hard way. Because 100% when this thing's opened in Scotland, and now, you were there yesterday, Mitch, Visit Scotland at the top. I've been years with Visit Scotland. The top guys are now like, this is going to revolutionise, the tourism industry in Scotland. And you're like, yeah, of course it is.
Yeah.
But it was obvious.
Yeah.
It's just hard to make it happen.
Yeah. Now it's happening and moving forwards. You get those people that are like, oh, hello, this is good. This is going to be what we think is going to be.
And you spoke about one of the, if not the only project on time, on budget. Where is the project currently, and what's the kind of projection?
When does it open?
That's the big one.
When can I surf it?
That's it. Well, look, wet commissioning is going to be next summer, so we're due to have a practical completion in early summer next year, and then we have to go through the wet commissioning process, which is obviously where Wavegun come in and run all the waves and trial the waves, and hopefully we'll get a few shots as well. And then opening to the general public sort of late summer. We're aiming probably for about September. To open. And once we're open, the biggest commodity we've had is time. Obviously, if I'd been handed, £100 million 8 years ago, we'd be surfing now. But actually, in hindsight, we'd be surfing in a lagoon that's not very well thought through. Yeah. And what we have had is the time. So what I believe and I hope is we've got a financial structure in place, an operational team in place who've all learned a heck of a lot from the current market. And I want this facility to be open for 100 years. I don't see why it shouldn't be.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So amazing. That's the main thing.
And then you're going to give a listener of the UK Surf Show the chance to get the first wave in Wavegun Scotland. Is that right?
Discount, yeah.
A very small discount.
We'll do some stuff. That's fine.
And I guess, chat about your surfing maybe before we wrap it up, because you do surf, which is, I think, an essential part of the project for, just that relatability factor. So where did surfing start for you?
Well, my father was a school teacher and then a rugby coach, and in '89 he went out to Australia, did an exchange. So we lived on the Gold Coast in '89, and apparently I joined the little nippers out there, and for a year I just kept talking about big waves, where are the big waves, just became obsessed with big waves. Came back to Scotland, played a lot of sport, but surfing never crossed my mind. I was playing for my club team, Boroughmuir, and we had a Kiwi. They used to basically pay Kiwis and South African guys who were better than us to come over and play with us.
Standard.
Fair enough. They did help us win stuff, to be fair. And there was a great guy, Elgin. He came over. He played in the centres with him. He said, "Oh, my Kiwi pals are over there surfing down the coast." I said, "Well, it's too cold. What are you talking about?" So he actually told me about surfing, and when I was about 23, 24, just started surfing on my own. Well, with an old pal of mine at the time. He never quite learned to stand up, unfortunately. But with an old pal of mine, and then I just surfed on my own for 10, 15 years after that, and then that's that, really. And now watching the community grow up here has just been fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen that community myself from, like you said, I wasn't on the Scottish surf scene. It was only that I got a posting home for 2 years to Scotland, and I thought my surfing days were done. I'd only started surfing maybe 4 years prior to that. But to come up here, and while you could call it niche, it's still a tight community of surfers. Like generally, you can go anywhere and you bump into somebody you know, etc. I think the community is really strong, and it's probably important to point out, this is a wave garden in Scotland, but by no means is it restricted to Scotland. There's a community way further south and all over the country of people. I mean, tourist industry in Scotland is huge. Surfers will travel unquestionably to come up and surf this facility.
Yeah. Well, Mitch, it's funny you mentioned that, because we are planning to do a discounted surf voucher that we're going to be putting on sale probably towards the end of the year. It's going to be a certain number of surfs that's going to be discounted heavily, and what we want basically is all the surfers in the UK to buy this voucher and come up in year one, tell us what we're doing right and tell us what we're doing wrong, but there'll only be a finite amount for sale. So it's absolutely something we think that surfers in Cornwall and in London and these places, hop on a flight to Edinburgh Airport, within 10 minutes you're on a wave, from Edinburgh Airport. It's that simple. So
within 5 minutes you're at McDonald's. If Mitch picks you up.
me and the champions. We've got a great food market on site, but given we've already got a Greggs and McDonald's in close proximity, I'm not sure if the Scottish public will be enjoying our £5 sausage roll.
All you need to sell is tatty scones and what's that stuff, Mitch? I've forgotten it already.
Red Cola?
No,
tablet.
Tablet, that's it. I've had to put it out of my mind because I turned into some sort of crack addict for a week on tablet.
It does that to you. It's limited amounts.
If we can be something to do with raising the life expectancy in parts of Glasgow from 52 to at least 55 via surfing, then I think we're doing our job.
And I guess, lastly, for me anyway, what would you expect this sort of facility to bring to the area?
Well, this is the biggest driver of all for us. A lot more than 11 million into a local economy each year. Going back in time slightly, when I had this idea, I did live down in Birmingham. The reason I moved up here was, one, I knew it was going to be a lot easier to do something on my doorstep where I had relationships and so on. But two, because I grew up in Scotland, I feel that there's a lack of opportunity for kids here. I feel I was extremely fortunate myself. My dad was a PE teacher, so I grew up in a fancy school grounds where I could go and do the high jump in my spare time if I wanted to, right? And it brought me so much in being good at sport and having that opportunity. So being able to deliver this on my doorstep is a massive driver. So from education, we've been dealing with a lot of school teachers and trying to get into schools. Basically, I won't say too much on that at the moment. We've obviously got a surf lab, which is a collaboration with the University of Napier University, which I think is a real push, a sort of look back in time to when the Scots, before we got, slightly lazy and miserable, we actually did used to be quite an enlightened people, and we used to have a lot of drive, and I think we've got a real potential to be the sort of brain of cold water surfing here. We might not always have the best level, but we can have the brain, so we're embarking on that with a collaboration with the university. And more than that, we just want to bring a lot of smiles to people's faces in a time where there's so much macroeconomic uncertainty, where you can't read the news without feeling depressed. And surfing has certainly brought me some of my happiest times. And if we can deliver waves that can bring other people happy times, then I think we can look ourselves in the mirror and say we've done a good job.
I think that's an amazing answer. Yeah,
I think that's a great place to end your first experience on the UK Surf Show as well. And thanks so much and we look forward to having you on for a full episode at some point in the near future.
Pete's sat there Googling McDonald's currently. I can see it. Delivery.
A McDonald's and a Greggs. And now I can give you some mold hair wax. But I don't need it anymore.
I don't use any products in this, just so we're clear. I'll just sit spray.
No, he doesn't. I've seen him use straighteners, hairs, dryers, everything he's got for that thing.
Hey, it's 2023. Come on.
And thanks for that, Andy.
Thank you very much. Let's get straight on with the rest of the team, shall we?
Shall we? Do you don't want to talk about that one at all, or do you want to get on with the rest of the team and then talk about the lot?
People don't want to hear from what we've got to say about what they've just heard. Not yet, anyway. Let's drop in the rest, and we'll get to the end, and then we'll deliberate.
Oh, we'll do that. Okay, see you in a bit.
Thinking time.
Hello, I'm Alejandro. I'm from Spain, and I'm part of the operations team at the Low Shore Surf Resort.
Yeah, I'm Mark, Fay Fife, and I am part of the operations team with Lost Shore.
Whereabouts in Fife before we move on?
Dunfermline. Nice. In fact, just outside Dunfermline, just to be clear.
Okay. There's nothing wrong with Dunfermline.
I didn't say there was.
No, I like it.
You're embarrassed about it, but... I suppose I better use my official title. I'm Dr Brendon Ferrier, lecturer from Edinburgh and Ap University and part of the Surf Lab, which is a partnership between Lost Shore and Edinburgh and Ap University.
Oh, I don't know where to start. Do we start with Surf Lab? Because straight away I'm intrigued. Or do we start with Lost Shore?
Lost Shore first.
Okay, so Lost Shore, what is it? What's it all about?
So Lost Shore is it's a small development which is happening just outside Edinburgh.
Okay.
It's going to be a surfing destination.
Wow.
Inland surfing destination, of course.
That makes it almost relevant to the podcast, so we should talk about it more.
Yeah.
It's lucky you dropped by, isn't it?
Yeah. And when's this amazing sounding facility looking to be in existence?
So we're going to be opening in September next year. Yeah, scary to say, it's actually is next year now.
Okay.
The project's been on the go best part of 10 years probably. It was just a twinkle in Andy's eye 10 years ago, and construction started on site last July, I want to say. Still on track.
So construction's started, so they're breaking ground, which is, presumably the point of no return, so it's definitely happening.
Basically, yeah. Once the spade's dirty, that's it. That's the rules. You just got to keep going.
Just keep going. So at the time of recording, Mitch always likes to say that.
I do like
at the time
to say
of recording, what point are you up to right now? I know when this comes out, it'll be further forward.
It's quite straightforward. We started up. We're developing a quarry site, so it's an old. What do you call it? Greyfield site? Is that what it's called? Brownfield site? It's one of the kind of colours that aren't so attractive.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's an old industrial site, and it was a quarry, so it was just a big hole in the ground, and we've gone in and made that a bigger hole in the ground.
Okay. Just going to fill it with water and a pulley.
More or less. That's kind of the stage that we're at. It's the first period is all about just consolidating the ground, making sure it's as consolidated as possible.
Yeah.
Makes sense. But because it's an old industrial site, there's obviously been various different bits of sort of infill happened over the years. So the site, although it looks like a great place to build, is actually a little bit unstable. So it's all just about stabilising it, making sure it's not going to subside any further. And then once they sort of monitor that and say, we're now happy once all the geotechnical guys say we're good to go, that's when construction starts.
Wow. We try to do the maths, and I hate to try and throw out stats without having it accurate, but roughly we've worked out that none of our listeners have built or own a wave park or a wave facility. So what are the sort of complications where do you even start with something so big?
Well, you're kind of speaking to the wrong guy, because I was lucky enough just to join the project at the point when it became interesting.
Right, okay. So the hard work was done.
So that's the beauty of being part of the operations team, being part of the fundraising team, being part of the the team that gets it through planning. That's where the hard yards go.
Right, okay.
I just start when it becomes cool and sexy.
I'm happy with that. Yeah.
Okay,
that's a smart way to work. Work smart, not hard. And Alejandro, what do you do within Lost Shore? And we should probably mention as well, because a lot of people we speak to a lot, weren't aware that a wave garden technology was even coming to Scotland, which has, I'm sure, reasons to go with that. But it was called Wave Garden Scotland when people were aware of it. It's not anymore. Is there a reason for the name change?
Well, I think that we are keen to create our own identity. So Wave Garden, of course, is the technology developer. Let's say they have created this technology we are going to use in the wave pool. They are based in Spain, in the Basque Country. So I think at the end of the day, it's all about being unique. Being ourselves and to develop the identity that we want. It made sense to start a new brand and fly on our own. Yeah,
it's quite hard to. I presume you guys as well must still find yourself saying Wave Garden Scotland, or have you got over it now?
No, I've never made that mistake. No.
It's a turbo professional.
Don't know what you've heard. Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, this is depending on who I'm talking to. If I'm talking to my family who aren't necessarily surfers,
I'd
sure. like to try and keep it a bit more simple.
Yeah.
But, for people that are maybe following the project, you need to get trained into the real the new name.
Lost Shore Surf Resort is the full name, is that right? And I presume we'd be expecting people to say, "Are you going to Lost Shore?" Which sounds pretty cool, I think, in itself.
Yeah. I mean, Lost Shore. I mean, the idea behind it, lots of thinking went in, obviously, and what's a cool name or an interesting name or something that grabs the attention. And I mean, when you think about an inland surf destination, it's kind of an oxymoron in its own right. It's a bit lost. And so
Mitch was upset you didn't call it the Scottish Surfer. He thought he was going to be right.
No, but I don't mind it's not being named after me because my face is going to be on the bottom of the pool.
Well, no, I mean that's its full title is Lost Shore Surf Resort, powered by Wave Garden in association with
the Scottish Surfer.
Right, okay.
Which everyone wanted.
Yeah.
There was a poll and everything.
And then, how did you end up getting involved?
I've been involved with this with Andy for, I think, 6-7 years. So
in the boring part.
Yeah. Well, actually, I've never been involved in the boring part, which is good. No, the discussions with Andy have been sort of this whole partnership with the Edinburgh and Ap University. And Lost Shore. So it's taken us 6 to 7 years to get this into realisation, and it's now officially working. So we have a partnership between the two entities.
So what is, if you can, what is the partnership? What does that involve, and what's going to be the benefits from both sides of it?
Well, it's going to be, again, got to be careful what I say. It's going to be one of the only sort of wave pools that are linked in with the academic institution. So my side, I'm a sport and exercise scientist. So we're going to be looking at, across a range of the health benefits, performance elements, R&D type stuff. We've now got the engineers involved with a couple of other projects as well. So it's just integrating academia with the wave pool and the resort itself, and seeing how we can fit in and support Lost Shore.
So in simplistic terms, Pete could pay Lost Shore money to come and surf, and then you could tell Pete he can't surf because he's rubbish.
Yeah, technically, basically, yeah. we can do it in more technical terms.
Do that. You do that for me.
in a hypothetical world.
Yeah.
So would it more be like students taking part and doing programs?
Yeah.
And stuff
So
like that,
right now we have 3 students for their final year project doing some work with Srface, the wetsuit company. So they're looking at
sponsor of the show.
Sponsor of the show, yeah. So they've provided us some wetsuits, and the students are doing some R&D for them to look at across the range of their wetsuits and sort of see which does what. So with a skin temperature, comfort, as well as what's more restrictive with your paddling.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of a link with regards to technology and sort of industry as well.
And I'm curious, is that linked into a saltwater and freshwater capacity, or?
No, I mean, we have to do it in a lab-based environment, but Srface are definitely understanding with that. But it's for them, they're going to use that for their PR, so they'll be able to actually everyone who comes on board can look at it and go, well, actually that wetsuit's more comfortable, that one's more better warmth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So hopefully the surf lab is going to be sort of a place that people can come in and try different technology. We can get involved with industry, but also we have that connection with Lost Shore where we can build community projects, and students can actually work with regards to Lost Shore.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds really interesting. Just that side of it, or the wetsuit side, that's something that I didn't know would. You don't really think about. Well, you get a wetsuit, don't you? Well, apparently that one's that, or you read a review or get a recommendation off a wetsuit. You don't think to the work that goes into it.
For sure. Yeah, the research and technology that goes behind
how warm it is, how stretchy it is, how because I've had wetsuits before from, I'll just say, other brands, and it's been a thicker wetsuit, and you've gone to paddle in it in the winter, and you a few paddles, you can't move your arms properly. It was so restrictive. But yeah, that's really good to hear. That is. I
also find that interesting from I guess from a surfer's perspective, that research into any wetsuit, because we could all sit in this room and go surf in the same location in the exact same wetsuit, same for our body size, but have the most varying of opinions and experiences within that suit. So I guess it's hard. You can't tailor that. It's generalistic. Is that, I think, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, and that's part of the projects. That's why we got the 3 students. So one's going to be looking at muscle activation to sort of look at, okay, which one is really restricting in hard work, so that paddle element.
Yeah.
Another student's looking at the skin temperature, so across different parts of the body to say, like, this wetsuit's really good and warm across the body, whereas, there might be cold spots. And another one is just generally looking at people's perception. So asking, after they've been in a cold bath, which, was that one warmer than the other one? And, they're all the same thickness. They're just the different models of the wetsuit. Yeah. So, we're getting that subjective view from the wearer, but also the sort of the more objective view from the technology.
Yeah.
Okay.
I suppose you've got to do that lab as well, so you can get the exact same results and temperatures every time for what you're doing.
Yeah, I think that's a big factor in it, is that like you're sort of describing there, the subjective view of we could all wear the same wetsuit and have a different opinion on it, but the important thing is to get some empirical data, some science behind it, and then that's when you can actually start to move these things forward. Just relying on opinions, opinions are like arseholes. Everyone's got one, but
some are just loose.
Some people,
some make sense.
I was going to say some have too. But yeah, with that on the science side of that, would that stretch then to doing stuff like, once you've done the wetsuits, like moving on to like boards and stuff like that, and other areas of surfing in with that?
Yeah, I mean the idea is, we're going to keep it quite open. To anyone who wants to approach us, or we'll approach people. So whether that be with regards to different board technology, there's a few projects down the line that I'm going to be sort of thinking about, Surfskate with Seb. I know Seb's been on the show, so even with him, looking at that transfer across the board. So it's more the idea that the whole Surf Lab is to bring in that science across the board to sort of help us understand things.
I like that's a good hook line there. Science across the board.
Oh, yeah, no one even picked up. Oh, you picked up
on that one.
That's why you turn up late to the party.
Didn't even rehearse that one.
I still like the idea that somebody turned up. They're ploughing through their degree. They're really happy with their life. And what am I doing today? You're going to sit in a cold bath for 4 hours. You can't move.
That's.
But if we benefit out of it, it's fantastic.
And I mean, we've got other things. So Jamie Marshall, who he does a lot of the stuff with surf therapy. He's sort of my co-partner with regards to the Surf Lab. So the two of us have come up with it, and so he's doing all his stuff with surf therapy on top of that. So that's all going to be linked in. So it's not just the R&D and that research; it's the community reach.
And Jamie Marshall, am I right in saying he's done a PhD in surf therapy?
Yeah, so he was actually, I was his supervisor for it. So
is he the first one to do it?
Yep. So he was
in the world,
first person in the world to do surf therapy. So
he's a man in demand, presumably.
Yeah, and he's continuing doing some really good work. Mm-hmm. He's got a few projects lined up and working along the lines of Blue Health and surf therapy. So they're tied in as well.
I think moving forwards after this one, when you can speak about the other stuff on it, it'd be a great episode to have on and just speak to the surfing lab side of it. That would be something really interesting, and I think that's something we'll definitely do. But like moving back to this, so where are you at the moment with Lost Shore? Have you got board sorted? Have you got brand sorted on board? And what's it going to be? What's going to be in it? Where's it going to be? How far's the car park going to be?
What at a time?
All of it. Tell us everything.
Right. What was first question was
all of it. Just tell me everything.
So as I said, if you find us, we're located just outside of Edinburgh, it's beside Ratho. All you'll find of us is a few porta cabins, a lot of heavy plant, and a big muddy hole.
Yep.
Obviously, in our office here in this the behind the scenes, we've got a very large, comprehensive project plan. it's always good to have a plan in these things.
You think so? Yeah.
So it sometimes helps. 400 odd lines on that spreadsheet that we're slowly ticking off, and obviously each line is just one work stream.
Yeah.
I mean, just talking about one of the questions there was the boards. So what boards we're going to be using?
Yeah.
That's something we're kind of working through just now. The process we're following is just contacting as many brands as we can think of, really, and just asking for freebies.
Yeah.
I think that seemed like the logical thing to do. Just,
Yeah.
Why not?
That's
how I live my life.
Yeah, basically. No, I mean, it's again, we're trying to just apply a little bit of science to it rather than just sort of saying, well, what ones look cool or what does other people use.
Yeah.
We want to just get them all in, and we want to do some testing. Spend the winter just testing them, and then forming opinions on that based on actual facts.
I mean, for a I'm not trying to compare it to a surf school, but I guess it's the closest thing possible. For a surf school, the amount of wetsuits and boards they have to tailor to everyone to turn around. For a facility like this, again, generalistically, I don't think I've ever said that word, I know I've said it twice, but what's the sort of numbers you would need to have to be able to turn over and run? You're looking at me like, why did you ask me that?
Well, I mean, bigger numbers that I can count on my hands anyway. It's it's something which is a bit of a conundrum because there's so many facets to it. Generally, if you take a surf school, for example, a busy surf school, you're maybe running 4 sessions a day.
Yeah.
In the summer, we'll be doing 12 sessions a day.
Yeah.
And it's on the hour, every hour. The capacity of the pool, I mean, it's basically it's about just shy of 90 people in the pool at any one time.
Okay. Yeah.
So if we've got everybody borrowing a wetsuit, which is totally feasible, that's 90 wetsuits on the hour, every hour.
Plus the waiting session and suits in the previous
Plus,
session.
the session that's just returning, the session that's just going out.
And then tailoring to every size, shape, need, requirement, season.
Which is why I glazed over a little bit when you asked me how many. Because the truth is, I'm trying to sort of like ignore that fact.
Yeah. So you're looking at a minimum probably of like 300 wetsuits, 300 boards at the very minimum.
As an absolute minimum.
Yeah.
And for the boards, I guess...
Got more than you, Mitch.
I mean, actually, on that point, 300 on the wetsuits, it depends what drying time you're going to have.
Yeah.
So it depends on your drying room.
Yeah.
It's another factor you have to throw into it. So once you start to take the scientific approach with this, it can get quite daunting. Every now and again, we have to just come up for air a bit and just sort of remind ourselves what it is we're doing.
Yeah, okay. But, so I guess in terms of people who haven't, not many people have seen the facility, I guess we can compare to the Wave because that's where people know. Kind of similar looking setup would be familiar to people when they turn up, or is there some different things going on?
Well, I think that the main difference is the location.
Okay.
So people would definitely notice a big difference when they walk into the site,
right?
Because the Wave, it's like in open countryside, in a flat space, let's say, and we are in a quarry. Mm-hmm. So we have like this amphitheater around the pool, which is really nice.
Okay.
So definitely that's going to be the first striking thing compared to the Wave. But the wave pool itself, in terms of dimensions, will be quite similar.
Okay.
There will be differences in paddles and stuff. But overall, it's going to be a similar facility regarding the pool. And then it will be the buildings and other differences, but similar approaches.
Okay.
But the scenery definitely will be quite different. Yeah.
So will that, like you just said then, it's going to be like an amphitheatre, like round the pool. Have you had to take into consideration that the noise that it'll make, and it will amplify that noise, and how far is that one of like?
Yeah, I mean, so being pretty close to Ratho, which is just a small village, but yeah, that is a big consideration, and various different bits of plant we've got around the site. We have to obviously consider that. Through planning, there's obviously restrictions on the hours that we're allowed to operate, all those kind of things. So yeah, I mean, we've actually had a really good relationship with the local community, the local Ratho residents, and we absolutely want to continue that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you got to keep people on side and keep them happy, haven't you?
Yeah.
And if it's in a quarry, I presume you're going to have some sort of shelter from some of the high winds we get.
Well, what are you talking about? What winds?
That takes us on to another question as well, which is the same question, but when you said, there's going to be a wave garden in Scotland, I was like, what the fuck are you going to put a wave garden in Scotland? It's freezing.
Well, yeah, I mean, the wind is definitely a factor, well, has been known to be a factor up here. And being sunk down into the quarry, the quarry cliff just sits over the top of it. It's actually a really nice little windbreak that we've got, which is a kind of a classic. We could always say it harks, maybe we need to paint it kind of stripy, multicolours, like the sort of classic windbreak on a Scottish beach.
Yeah, totally, yeah.
That sort of, yeah.
But also, I think, a personal opinion, I don't think you would want to have full shelter from the wind. As amazing as it might sound to have a glassy wave, but actually, and I guess it ties into the argument about, some people will think, and everyone's entitled to their opinion, that, the introduction of wave pools are going to create this culture of surfers that can't surf and they'll go in the sea and instantly die. That's what some people think that. But having these, definitely using surfing the wave. I've been down there and it's been howling wind, and it's like surfing in the ocean. Like, you're still having to take into account that factor of wind effect on my board, wind effect on the face. Yeah. So I think there's an element of realism with conditions.
But I think that in order to deliver the best experience possible, you wouldn't desire having wind, because everything is perfectly engineered, both the bathymetry and the wave matching itself, to provide perfect waves.
Yeah.
So the wind, it's an element that can disturb that. So for example, if you are talking about the sea and you want to surf barrels, having an offshore wind helps you because it gives the wave up for longer and makes it hollower. But in a wave garden, you don't need that, because the technology is so precise that you will get perfect barrels, even if you don't have wind at all.
It's an interesting point, though, of define a perfect wave. Is it the wave that you drew in your textbook at school that looks always identical?
A perfect looking wave.
Is Kelly's wave the perfect wave? I mean, it's definitely a perfect looking wave. I mean, would you want to just surf that one wave for the rest of your life?
Most expensive, yeah, not at that price though.
No. So, all right, that sort of also ties into a question of, do you know what settings you're going to have on it yet or not?
So every pool that gets built will be an improvement on the previous. And I'm not saying that in a kind of on a big headed. Eventually one day, I mean, maybe one day in the far future, someone will build a better pool than us. Unlikely, but it's possible.
But that's how progression works.
But the reality is that every pool that gets built, Wave Garden are improving on it. So the bathymetry that they give us, the technology they're able to push into the paddles, it should be better than
if you're
else.
not learning, you're not listening, are you? You're not paying attention.
Sorry, what was that?
But also as well, I wonder from a performance aspect, because of course having these facilities is a training ground for not just people starting surfing, but specifically for competition level surfers. But also I always think that there's a trick being missed here, because most good surfers can surf a crazy clean big face wave. It's then when they're suddenly surfing really small, choppy, wind affected waves that some really good surfers struggle. And I think how many, certainly QS competitions, when people turn up to QS competitions, that's how the waves tend to be. So I've travelled, it's going to run, it's not the CT. So I think there's for me, again, just looking at it objectively, like having the ability to do that, to make a horrible looking wave, and you have to work to get to sections from your own surfing, and not just because the wave's providing it. I think there's something in there.
No, I like that. Yeah, so basically, if it all goes wrong and the pool we build is horrible, then actually it's all intentional. It's actually just trying to hark back to a bit of natural.
It's only for CT surfers then.
But I think it's that thing you've got to learn to separate it, even though it is the same, it's different. And I think the wave pools, great for practice, great for fun when there's no when like a lot of people, if you had the choice to go surfing in the sea or a wave pool garden, I think the majority of people would choose surfing in the sea. But you can't guarantee. Like, I've been down here all week, and I think there's one day we've had surf, and we had to travel
it's
miles
just a unique
away.
Week. There's normally surf every week.
Liar, you've told me that. But it's those things, so they're always there, so you can always go, you can always book a session, you can always practice, and the amount they'll bring on, like, surfers who are then going to be able to go like CT, WSL, stuff like that. It'll progress them so much. And have you got things in place that are already like lining up to do stuff like that, to like progress Scottish surfing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a huge part of what we're doing. You know, everybody on this team is on the team because they have a passion for surfing, and you know, the future of surfing is always the kids. It's always the next generation coming in. And in Scotland, you know, we're quite a proud country, but we're not necessarily always the highest achieving of countries. I mean, number one for things like heart disease and that kind of thing.
You got to take victories where you get them.
Well, you know. Absolutely. But you know, to have the opportunity to build like a world class facility and give Scottish kids and you know Scottish future generations the opportunity to reach those levels is genuinely humbling.
Absolutely. What about you guys? Everyone surfs?
Yep.
Talk to me about your surfing back.
When we can.
So, Brandon, you've obviously got a strong Edinburgh accent happening there.
Try to hide it. No, I'm an e-boarder, so slightly different.
To be clear, I'm also an e-boarder, but not by choice. That's a true story.
Just a different. I've been surfing 40 odd years.
Okay.
So
So where are you from?
around it. Originally from Margaret River, so used to big surf. So I'm quite looking forward to it. So nice clean surf as opposed to onshore sort of sloppy ways.
How did you find moving? I presume you moved straight to Scotland from Margaret River, or
pretty much.
How did you find surfing cold, dirty water?
I still find I've been here 19 years, and I still find it relatively hard sometimes to get the enthusiasm. But I mean, it is what it is. Still need to get surfed somehow.
Was Scotland the first time you'd surfed in a wetsuit?
No. It's back home. It's pretty cold. But 4 mils.
Pretty cold.
Yeah, 4 mils about the thickest you'd go. Whereas here, 5 mil. You're looking at it
Chain
going, that's
mail,
too thin.
Body armor.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it is what it is. It's good fun. A wave's a wave.
That's true.
You can get it. So,
what about yourself, Alejandro?
I'm from the Basque Country, so it's not a hot part of Spain either. So cold is not much of a problem for me. Although the other day we went surfing and it was like 5 degrees, and I nearly lost my hands.
It sounds like cold is a problem for you.
I'm not sure what 5 degrees you're talking about. It's about -5.
Oh yeah, probably 5 water.
Water temperature 5.
That one I got it right.
You grew up surfing?
Yeah, so I've been surfing for 15 years already.
Okay.
So my dad introduced me to the sport when I was a kid, and since then I haven't stopped.
I think it was the search for the perfect wave is what you led to Scotland, was it not?
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. So regarding my experience surfing in Scotland, when I came here first time in a Erasmus program, is how I got my first contact with the project. I flight back to Spain quite impressed, because when I got here I didn't have much expectations of surfing.
Okay. And
I ended up surfing almost every week. I was here from February to June, so it was quite a consistent surfing experience for me. And although the waves aren't as big as the ones I've used to in Spain, I'm not a big surf wave either. But yeah, I love the fact that here in Scotland you can surf almost on your own. The landscapes are amazing. You have like beautiful sunsets, beautiful sunrises. So definitely landscape, it's magical. So it's a different experience. I enjoy it, and
When you said the waves aren't, everyone looked at you like, I wonder where this is going. I wonder where this is going. And how about yourself, Mark?
I mean, I've been surfing since I think I was about 12 years old. It would have been the first experience down at probably down at Belhaven. It would have been.
Okay.
And my older brother's 6 years older than me. He got a wetsuit and a board for his 18th birthday, and I remember him. So this was in March. Lended me. I think he gave me his boots and his gloves. Kindly,
yeah,
and when we took turns about, so he had the wetsuit, I had the boots and gloves, and a pair of probably swimming shorts or speedos or whatever it would have been at the time. And we were like taking turns about to use the board or sit in the car and shiver.
Yeah, okay.
And it's been hooked ever since for some reason.
Yeah, it does that, doesn't it? It bites you pretty quick.
It really does, yeah.
So you've all got surfing backgrounds. So what sort of other facilities and what sort of other things are going to be offered at Lost Shore?
So my kind of in on the project was I used to work for Freeze Pro Shop, who was I started off as a ski and snowboard retailer. We transitioned into surfing as well. That was based in Edinburgh, and it would have been about 2016, I think, when Wave Garden Scotland, as it was then called, was going through planning. And obviously, from a personal point of view, I was interested because I want to surf it.
Yeah, for sure.
From a professional point of view, I was a bit nervous of like, are these guys going to come in? And Scotland's not really renowned for its surf retailers. There's not many of them around, and to have two big ones side by side was quite nervous.
Yeah.
Luckily, he was very open to the idea of Freeze running the shop.
Okay.
Doing sort of helping run that aspect of it. At the start of the pandemic, unfortunately, Freeze basically closed, sort of forced into sale and closed in Scotland. So, that was a bit of a nervous time. But luckily Andy had the foresight to hire my services to come and work in house.
Hire you late. You're loitering, just waiting.
Yeah, exactly. No, I absolutely lucked out. Approached them and sort of explained the situation, and the rest is history.
Yeah,
I'm now on shore, now with the Lost Shore team. So I've just kind of answered in a long way. One of your questions was, what's it going to have? It's going to have a shop, so that's a good start.
Yeah,
going to be able to buy and rent and demo, whatever gear you could want. We're going to have a pretty amazing food offering. So don't want to give too many details away at this stage, but
are you going to have square sausage?
I mean, is there any other shape of sausage?
Not anymore. Not
He's been introduced and that is locked
bloody
in.
Amazing. Square sausage and
tablet. He's
Yeah.
had about 30 bars of tablet a day since I introduced it to him on Saturday.
It's amazing.
I'll try and find a space in the shelves for some of that. An amazing food and beverage offering. It's going to have an event space. It's going to have a spa and wellness, accommodation on site, and it's all set within a country park.
So open to the public?
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. Kind of free to use country park. Not free to use surf pool before anyone gets excited there. Unfortunately, some aspects of the site you have to bring your wallet for. But no, it's a free to access public realm. The idea, the whole ethos of the project is to deliver something that Scotland can be proud of, and to basically be a benefit to the sort of local community and the wider country as a whole. And that's what we're doing. We're developing a quarry where there really wasn't a lot going on, and turning it into this amazing country park.
Are you going to have accommodation, that sort of stuff as well? Yeah,
absolutely. That's a big part of it, because Edinburgh, anyone that's tried to book a place to stay in Edinburgh will know themselves. Yeah. It's A, not easy, and B, not cheap. Mm-hmm. We're situated pretty close to the airport, so it's an amazing opportunity to be able to offer some really sort of first class accommodation from a stone's throw from Edinburgh.
Well, I guess the other benefit you're going to have is the amount of travel and tourism that's already on the doorstep before you open, before you even consider the surf community. There's a lot of people on the doorstep.
Yeah, and that's our kind of idea, though. That's where the name comes from. We're a surf resort, is how we see it. So no matter if, in your family unit, no matter if you surf and nobody else does, you can still come down. There will be something for everyone to do.
Yeah. Nice. Anything else going to be in there?
Any innovations within the facility?
Any new ideas or?
Well, yeah. So I think again another sort of ethos which is quite close to our heart is this idea that we should really be a force for good. Any business has an opportunity to actually have an impact, and that can either be a positive or a negative impact. So certain things that we just cannot get around. It takes energy to create waves. Right? Yeah. If you're in the sea, you've got the wind that does that for you. Mm-hmm. For us, it's going to be electricity. Yeah. We've got ways in Scotland with the wind creating electricity, some kind of wizardry that goes on in these windmills, I think you call them. They create the electricity. So we should be transitioning into a sort of fully green energy source. When you think about things like the surfboards, as well as the performance and the price and the looks and all those things, we're obviously thinking a lot about the durability. the best way to try to have a minimum impact in the environment is to just use products or buy less and keep them for longer.
Keep going.
Yeah.
So the durability of the boards is a really big thing for us. When it comes to wetsuits,
Well,
again,
do you know what? With wetsuits, though, sorry to jump in, but I've always wondered this. I've for some reason, and it's not because I'm a hoarder like Pete, but I have got every wetsuit I've ever either bought or been given. I've still got all of them, and they're just hanging up. There's loads of them, and I don't know. Like, I feel like they're wasted. A lot of them are too old and battered to be used, but I feel like there must be something I could do with it that benefits someone.
well, I mean, it's funny you ask that.
It's almost like it was set up.
Almost.
So you're absolutely right. The neoprene, it just doesn't really degrade. So you chuck it in landfill and it'll still just be there and hundreds of thousands of years to come. There's lots of little ways you can recycle them. Like cut squares out of the wetsuit and turn it into a coaster, or whatever it may be. But that doesn't actually address what you do with the neoprene at the end of its life. So we're actually working on a system for recycling wetsuits, which will become a fully circular method, basically turning them into yoga mats. And then you might ask, what do you do with the yoga mat when it comes to the end of its life? It just joins the start of the process again and gets turned into a new yoga mat. So that's just one of the sort of small little side projects that we're doing, and just trying to address the fact that we are a big facility. It is going to be producing potentially a lot of waste. How can we divert those waste streams into other more useful products?
I think to have sustainability in mind from the off, like, of course, everything can't be sustainable. That's just not how the world works. But to have the conversation, I think, will resonate with so many people.
I always thought from the waveguard technology, if you're producing energy with the wave, is there no way to harness that energy and put it back into it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an engineer.
Well,
I think that's a question that everybody's asked, because we know that the wave energy is like a thing, right?
Yeah.
So what happens with that?
It's literally the reason why we have a wave in the sea.
Yeah, but the I think the reality of it is that Waveguard, and I've looked at it. I suppose a tricky part of it is that the recirculation of the water in the pool is really important to how the wave works.
Yeah.
So it's anything you put in that disrupts that to try and take energy from it is effectively changing this recirculation of the water. I mean, that's my take on it. It's something I think that has been looked at.
Okay.
But yeah, it's not something that they have the answer to yet. I know that Bristol have got an amazing initiative where they're actually installing a bunch of solar panels, and the idea is that all of their waves are going to be powered by the sun, which is an amazing story. Unfortunately, we don't have the ability to do that from the off.
He was waiting for that to come up. He was poised.
I was trying to give him a little bigging up Scotland part, but we don't have the sun for that as reality.
So is that another concern though? Like, I know we joke about the weather and stuff like that, but it does get bloody cold up here as well, compared to down, well, as Mitch says, down in France where I am, down the other end of the country. But yeah, is that a concern of how cold it's going to get to how much time you'd have to shut, because obviously it's just going to ice over?
It could be a concern. I mean, if you think about this winter, I mean, it's generally speaking, the weather is getting so unpredictable. So up here at the start of December, I mean, we were getting temperatures consistently of -10, -15. And when it's that cold, the reality is it's going to freeze.
Yeah.
There is little things you can do. So overnight, you can just push tiny little waves just to disturb the surface, try and keep it open. But the reality is, I mean, even down in Bristol, there's froze over. Yeah. So if they're all the way down there freezing, I mean, you're going to be a little bit naive to say it won't
that was the
affect
thought behind it, because I know I've been to the wave in the morning and it's been frozen. You've got to turn the wave on to break the ice. I was just thinking it gets
I presume
colder.
you can't run it if there's chunks of ice in, because that's going to be a health and safety hazard. I would assume.
That's very sensible of you there, Mitch.
I don't often do it, but sometimes.
No, you're absolutely right though. Yeah, it is something we're just going to have to work around. And I think there will be days that we know that, despite our location, it will just be too windy. Despite us moving the waves, it will just be too icy. But we don't really see there's going to be too much of an issue with that. The biggest issue will just be convincing people that actually the experience is going to be comfortable. There's nothing we can do about the water temperature. We're not going to try and heat it.
I was going to say, what would just completely cost the bomb to heat something like that? Would
and then obviously once you're heating it, you get the evaporation and all this sort of stuff. So it just wouldn't wouldn't work. But what we are going to say is that, if you think about the barriers that people have to surfing and like getting changed in a cold, windy car park, for example, we don't have that problem. We've got indoor changing rooms, hot showers,
and a car park, or not.
We have got a car park.
Oh, sweet.
If you want to get changed there, we're not going to stop you.
He does it every morning. He goes down to the car park and gets changed.
Absolutely everything is going to be warm. The welcome will be warm. The wetsuits will be warm and dry. It'll be a great experience. And then, yourselves, when you get in the cold water, it's actually not when you're in the water is the worst part. It's a bit either side of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as soon as we get that message across, I think people will warm to the idea.
And I wonder as well, I guess thinking tiny scale, anybody that's set up a paddling pool in their back garden in the summer, and kids are splashing about in it, 2 days later, algae bloom is horrendous. For such a large facility, how do you go about, I assume it's not 3-4 chlorine tablets, I assume there's more to it than, because that must be presumably a concern.
Yeah, so basically, Wave Garden have developed not only the technology to create the waves, but also a water treatment. So they have the wave machine has a filtration system that takes care of all of that,
right,
in order to avoid that happening. We use chlorine, but in a really, really tiny percentage compared, for example, with an Olympic swimming pool.
Right.
So you can see all the videos and images of the wave gardens that are already running, that the water is pristine, is clear blue, and that's because the water treatment the wave garden have developed, and they are also pioneers on that front.
Right. Yeah. Wave Garden, is it Wave Garden Cove? Is that the Spanish company? Is that what it's called?
Yeah. So. The company is called Wave Garden. They are from Spain, from the Basque Country, and my neighbors almost.
Okay.
And the Cove is the name of the second technology, the second iteration of the technology after the Lagoon. That was the first one. That one you can find in Surf Snowdonia.
Yeah.
It's now it's called Adventure Park Snowdonia. That's the Lagoon was the first option they developed, and now it's the Cove that is this new one.
And I presume you guys, with Wave Garden Cove, you have a lot of back and forth. Like they're completely there to help in every way, shape, and form.
We have I would say we have a really good relationship with them, because you have to keep in mind that Wave Garden, and I remember this when I was back in Spain, when they started on this quest to master the wave pool technology. They were just a tiny team dreaming of being able of build this, and it's like a really grassroots project, family business. So it's in that sense it's really similar to us, because Andy also is started on his own, and we have that cultural connection with them, because we came from the same place, let's say, as a project. And we are in constant contact with them, and lovely people.
I was going to say, like you said, like the technology's coming on and on. I think it was when we were speaking to Ben Gravy, he said like he's surfed all of them now, or I think he surfed them all.
Yeah.
I think all of them all. Well, there was one he hadn't, but the one he said, the one in Korea, I think it was. Yeah, they had like 15 settings on it or something, everything from like different levels and split. That's one of the things I really want to know. I think that's one of the things people will be really interested in, settings-wise on it.
So when you build a Wave Garden Cove, it's not a standard product. Yeah. You can have different modules. So you have this set of modules are the ones that generate the waves. Yeah. And depending on what you want to build, you can have more of those. And at the moment, Korea is the facility with the bigger amount of modules, and that gives them the opportunity to create more waves, to control the wave all the way down with all these 56 modules. So
does that also, on saying that, does that also, the more modules you put in, the more it costs, or is it?
Obviously, I mean, you have to move more motors.
Right,
so each module is powered by a motor. So the more modules you have, the more costly.
Yeah, because I think people think they hear like. I'll take the Bristol wave, for example, right? People hear about the wave, I've heard there's a beast mode, I've heard there's this mode, I've heard there's this mode, and someone thinks like, oh, it's just a bloke in the back turning a dial.
Oh,
to
like an update on an app.
Yeah. So you're going like volume, like, volume 11 sort of thing like that. And I think people think it's that. So I don't think people realise.
This is an interesting bit, because when you dive into the waveful technology world, there is like a really big difference between software-driven wave pools and non-software-driven wave pools. I will put an example from Kelly Slater's wave pool that looks impressive in a video. That's a structure in a lake, let's say, and there's a plow that moves along that lake, creating that wave. Mm-hmm. But you cannot change that wave because the bathymetry is set and the plow is set. There are no moving parts you can tweak to change it. Yeah.
So the only thing that can affect that wave is the seabed, if you want to call it that, the shape of the floor.
And effectively on a daily basis, the speed of the plow will create different waves. Okay. So the faster that plow moves, But in software-driven wave pools like Wavegarden, you have the ability to control the waves you are pumping with the software. And I remember one of the first times we went to San Sebastian, to Spain, to the demo facility. It was really fun because you were in the lineup waiting for the waves, and you have a little microphone, and you could tell them, "Oh, can I have a turn wave next?" But that's the kind of stuff that software can allow. Yeah. That gives. We were talking about development and improvement. So once you build a Wavegarden Cove, then if a new type of wave is developed, you just only need to update your software. You don't need to change anything else. Okay. And you have an example of that. So I think it was prior to Christmas, they developed a new airwave, and they were able to introduce that airwave in every facility in the world because it's software. You don't need to do anything. So that takes the wave pool technology to another level in terms of commerciality.
Yeah. So the modules, so the Korea, to use the Korea pool as example, did you say that had 56 modules? Yep. I believe for WSL events, for competitions, there's a minimal module amount. Is that right? Before they're able to host a competition?
I don't know if any of that's actually been formally agreed, to be honest. But I mean, it would definitely be logical that there'll be a minimum size. So for every pool, around the world, there has to be a certain standard. Mm-hmm. So what the modules allow you to do is to have a longer wave, and it's sort of, so that the waves the modules at the start are all about creating the wave, and then it's the modules after that determine how long the ride is going to be.
Okay.
For example, Melbourne, who has recently hosted a QS event, they have now, I think there are 46 modules. Okay. It's not a CT competition. It's not the top. Yeah. It's a QS. But I think, as Mark said, that's it needs to be defined.
Yeah. Okay.
But for sure, the more modules you have, the better waves you can provide.
Right. I just wanted to bring it back to community, and I guess two parts to it. So one was the public community. I guess I don't want to say around Scotland, because actually, I've been based in North Yorkshire for the last 10, 11 years. And if I was still based in North Yorkshire, Saltburn being my local surf spot, this as a facility for a Wavegarden technology would still be the closest place for me to go once open. So I don't want to say Scotland, but keeping it fairly local in terms of schools and community groups and stuff. You've spoke a lot about engaging with other groups and stuff. Is that a consideration, getting these people involved?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the reality is, these facilities cost a lot of money to build and a lot of money to run, so they have to be commercially viable. But if we're commercially successful, which we have every intention of being, then that allows you to open up certain slots, on a regular basis to either local groups, concession prices to local schools, and that's what we see as really being core in our business is designing a business which gives us the freedom to do all those things, all those opportunities that we wish we had when we were kids.
Because I see it as that secondary effect benefit of how many people get swept out to sea or get stuck in a rip, not because they, not their fault, they don't know. If you don't know, you can't know, but actually you've got an ability to teach from a young age.
And that was always a common issue that was raised or concern that was raised when we were going through planning was, people really getting quite passionate, and rightly so, if they genuinely believed it. People thought that we were going to be directly responsible for people dying. They would say, you are going to be killing people. And they would say that, you're going to be training a generation of surfers who don't know anything about the sea, don't know anything about rips, don't know anything about, proper cold water immersion, all these sort of danger factors. But the reality is that we have an opportunity. What it is an opportunity to educate people. Yeah, we could do it very cynically, and we would just invite people in, take their money, and then wave goodbye.
Yeah.
But that's not the reality of what we're doing. Not at all. It's we realise that there's the sea is always going to be there. The danger is always going to be there, and the more people we encourage to use it, the more responsibility we have to teach them about responsible use.
Well, the thing is, I find it hard to believe. I'm happy to be corrected, but anybody who goes and surfs in an artificial surf pool, if I can call it that, they've got their own kit and equipment. I imagine they go surf in the sea anyway. But for the person that starts out surfing in a wave garden technology facility or something similar, actually you're being taught etiquette from the off, maybe without realising it, because you're sat in a queue, you're waiting your turn, you're told to get out the way. Go into the shoulder, go into the white water, out of the way by the lifeguard, and if you don't, you're out. So you're kind of being taught etiquette potentially without even realising it, and I don't see that as a bad thing at all.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the etiquettes, it all follows the same principles. The actual, mechanics of it maybe are slightly different, but it follows exactly the same principles. It's just about mutual respect. It's about being aware of your surroundings, being aware that you're not the only person in the lineup. Whether that's you paddling out or surfing in.
Yeah.
There's other people out there, and they might not be as fortunate as you were in having an early exposure to it, and they might just be, in their later in life and just as a complete beginner.
Yeah.
And that's totally fine.
For sure.
So from 2024, how many students do you expect throughout the country that are now going to want to come to Edinburgh University and be part of the science lab? Part of the science lab.
You mean, one of the many universities in Edinburgh, not Edinburgh University.
The
other universities are available.
I don't know. I'm not from here. I'm still trying to.
Yeah, I was going to say, what are you doing here? That's not a local accent.
Yeah, I can try it. You've been teaching me some words, haven't you?
Hey, we can't go there. I'll move it on straight away.
Yeah. Do you expect to see an influx of people wanting to get involved with like the lab?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I've got the pleasure of being an external examiner with the surf science degree down in Cornwall. So one of the things I'm looking at for the future is having a tie-in with them, so some of their students can come in and do projects up here. But again, they're all in planning. So
yeah.
They're all
so I mean,
future
like,
dreams.
what would something that like what would be the dream of that of like? Because I know like other places around the world, you can actually do surfing as, university course, college course at school, whatever. Opening up these like wave gardens gives that opportunity for people to do it anywhere. So what would be the advantages of having, like, because I think people in the UK think like, for example, like something like, kids in Australia get to do surfing as a lesson. What does that, what's that do? What's the advantage of like someone doing that?
I must admit, I was one of those kids.
So you can tell me. So you can actually say firsthand. Was it just like pure DOS, or was it just like you actually doing something, learning something?
No, well, it was probably a little bit of both. The teachers wanted to go for a surf, and all of us went for a surf. But it's still part of physical activity. It's still part of that whole process of getting active.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Showing my bias, coming to a country which football seems to be the only sport that exists, it's actually quite good that, there's kids out there that don't resonate with football or rugby.
Yeah.
They might resonate with surfing, might resonate with that sort of culture. So why not give them the opportunity to actually get involved with it as opposed to forcing them to do sports that they may not want to do.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, this is it. If you go up to the Highlands in Scotland, around Aviemore, for example, the schools around there, they'll ski as part of their PE lessons.
Yeah.
Which, like, why wouldn't you? If that's what you have around you, if that's what's around you,
too right.
It's physical education, and it's just, it's teaching you about the environment, it's teaching you about all these other things at the same time. And like I said, this idea of keeping kids involved in activity beyond the point where they're actually forced to participate, especially females. Participation I think it's about the age of 14 just drops off a cliff.
Yeah.
And it's because they're just being forced into the same old formulaic, obviously you'll be doing hockey or netball, right?
Yeah.
That's the options.
Yeah.
But opening it up and saying, right, well, skateboarding, it's an Olympic sport. Surfing, it's an Olympic sport. All these other adventurous sports that actually, for whatever reason, you're not into the team-based activities.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get too deep in philosophy, and Pete, I always say, but there's so much in surfing transfers across to real life, like teaching you the struggles, the struggle to get out back, paddling out, not get knocked off your board, the resilience to get back up. It's so important for kids. I always say that, Pete.
Yeah, you do,
Stole that off Pete yesterday. You got really deep. But I was going to say, thank you. I was going to say, you seem like an example to me of someone, and I guess not everyone gets that. You've not only got a professional interest, but an invested personal interest in what you do as a job. Like, that must be really satisfying to be able to do what you love, because you're not. I think there's a difference between being invested because I've got to do it because that's what I'm paid to do, than having a genuine stoke for the reasoning for doing it.
Yeah, I mean it's been lucky by, it's not by design. It's just been lucky that sort of I've been introduced to Andy, and the two of us sort of resonated with each other with regards to some of the ideas. But certainly, my three kids, they're not involved in they don't like football, they don't like rugby, they don't like the traditional sports.
Sound like good people to me.
Yeah, but also, I don't force surfing on them. If they want to go down that route, great. If they don't, they don't. But I think, if we can open up, or if Lost Shore opens up that opportunity for kids to actually explore and have a go at it, and if they've never had a go and they like it, great, there's another, different sport. But I think, for me as a professional person, I teach child development and look at physical activity, especially in children. It's a big issue. And, if Lost Shore can actually plug up some of those issues and stop kids dropping out from sport,
definitely,
it's got to be a win.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, completely agree.
So, I mean, is there anything else we haven't covered that needs to be said?
Maybe going back to your point about the, we're discussing the energy use in the wave pool, and it's the reality is, if you're moving that much water, it's going to be requiring energy. But there's Wavegarden themselves have done a lot of work on getting the technology as efficient as possible. There's obviously a baseline where you get to where that is the energy that's required, but in terms of the energy loss in their system, they talk about them being about 10 times as efficient as some of the pneumatically powered systems. And that was again a big factor in us choosing the technology. Not just that it created what we thought was the best waves out there in terms of the technology at the time, but just the actual energy use was as low as we could really see it getting. So you see some of the other pools, like the crazy Mad Max Australian.
I know for a fact I would be the only one that got sucked underneath that, and it was
amazing looking thing, but it is such an Australian approach to just hit it with a big
throw
hammer,
something
right?
at it.
I do know there is one planned for England to be built.
What, like that? Same sort of...
Yeah, same company, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Wow. So...
Watch this space.
Yeah. Be an interesting one, but it works.
Yeah.
And
on this, talking about Wavegarden, they have plenty of information on their website explaining everything regarding energy, and they are developing something that we were talking about before, about trying to recover the energy that is produced, that is used in the waves, to recover that, and they have a system that recovers some part of it, so they are already on the path of doing that. And also something relevant to this is that because of the quality of the waves you want to achieve, apart from the currents that Mark said before, you need you always want to get water dissipation to dissipate the energy. So when you dissipate the energy, then it's difficult to recover it.
Yeah, right.
So it's a really interesting challenge from a technological point of view to tackle.
Okay.
But I think that eventually they will get there. So they are on track, and they are making a lot of efforts to improve it.
Okay.
And yeah.
It's an interesting step forward. And I thought, just, clearly it's great. I think it's fantastic. And I hope anybody listening to this realises that, you aren't just a load of businessmen sat around in suits. I mean, we're literally all sat around here in ripped jeans and Vans in these offices, and you're just surfers the same as everyone else. And you're putting, a very complex plan into place, and we've got absolutely no doubt it's going to be delivered to the best it will be. We like to ask, bringing it back to surfing, best and worst surf experience or wipeout. So let's go around the room.
Yeah, I mean that's such a tricky question to answer. I mean, so many bad surfs spring to mind. I think that's what makes us surfers, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
It's the just keep on plugging away, and the stoicism that one day the stars might just align.
It's not one bad experience.
And you're playing me for a fool if you think I'm going to tell you where the best place I've ever surfed is.
We all know
that's not
Come
how
on.
this works.
Or it was referred to recently as the Old Kent Road.
Old Kent Road, yeah. Peas
For
Bay.
reasons we will not go into.
Yeah. The secret spots that are visible from the A1 motorway. Yeah. I mean, I was lucky enough when I left school, went out to New Zealand for a few months and surfed Raglan. And I mean, that's a phenomenal place. New Zealand, amazing country. It's sort of seconded only by Scotland,
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair. Okay, Alejandro, let's get an actual answer. Best experience.
For me, not in exotic places. The two experiences I have in mind happen at home. I remember the worst one when I was in that difficult moment where you are transitioning from your from getting white waters to green waves, and you start to venture yourself to the proper lineup. And going out there a day that was too big for my level, and getting dragged by the sea into open sea and say, fuck. Now what? I'm trying to go out, but I obviously I'm here. I survived, so that's a good learning experience. And in terms of the best one, I can't pick one, but for me the best experience is arriving to the beach at night and then be in the water while the sun is going up, and be on your own with no one around. I don't like the crowds when I'm surfing, so that's
why you
for
come
me.
to Scotland to surf.
Exactly. Yeah.
No one else in the water.
I mean, there you go. That was a much better answer than I had lined up. Yeah, I mean, any surfer where you feel like you're really at one with the environment, and I realise that's maybe a bit of a counterproductive thing for us in our profession to be saying, but that's really what we're trying to deliver to people is Lost Shore is not just the artificial element. It's surrounded by nature, and always trying to hark back to that.
Would you do something? Sorry, before we get to you, would you do something in Lost Shore, like if you had a party of people, you'd let them book a whole side out? Is that something you'd looked at, like?
If you show me the colour of your money, and we'll consider it. Yeah.
Or if you want, two very average surfers to test the facility out for you as it's being built, we're more than happy to help you.
We'll talk later on. Yeah,
not sure.
I think we can come to some agreement. Yeah.
And then, what about yourself?
Suppose I'd have to say the best is like being lucky enough to grow up in the southwest of Australia and the amount of surf spots there.
That's enough about you anyway.
Can't believe it didn't say Scotland.
But also, I mean, I must admit, the sort of the good side of surfing in Scotland is coming from the southwest of Australia, it's just getting crowded and more crowded over a longer period of time. Whereas here, I can go for a surf and get a spot by myself and no one around, which is, just as nice.
Yeah.
Bit colder, but also I don't have to worry about big things with teeth.
Yeah, there is that.
Well, have you been round Edinburgh City Centre?
I was going to say, with that, any experiences out in Australia then of anything like sharks or bad experiences?
Yeah, quite a few experiences with sharks and other things. Beginner surfers dying on the beach, those sorts of things. But yeah, no, where I grew up, sharks are a common thing, so you don't really think about them. I lived on the East Coast for a year, and that was right in the heat season of all the shark attacks happening around there. So yeah, it's quite nice to not have that in the back of your mind when you're surfing out here. You're not really thinking about them.
I think last year there were like 57 incidents with sharks, and only 5 people died in the world because of shark attacks reported.
More people die from cows every year. That's actually a genuine fact. And I feel like sharks have just got bad PR.
Yeah,
I feel like if I was to run sharks' Instagram page for them, I could bring them back up on par with, I don't know, like giraffes or something cool.
Do you know what? And if you are worried about sharks, do you know where you could go and surf? You could go and surf at Lost Shore.
Oh, guaranteed shark free.
Guaranteed shark free. You may get a few snakes.
You've put a guarantee on it. You have to be careful because I will go to some extreme lengths to get a claim. What's
the money back guarantee?
All right, guys, and just before we wrap this up, then can you say where you can be found online?
Yeah, lostshore.com. It's pretty straightforward. That's where we'll be living. We don't have a huge amount of presence at the moment. We kind of feel that substance is better than what's that well-known expression?
Mitch.
Seemingly not that well-known in here.
No one here knows
what you're trying to say.
We want to make sure we've actually got something really tangible to talk about. We don't
quality over quantity, maybe.
Yeah, there we go. That's it.
Pounds over pennies. Just making stuff up now.
Bros over hose.
All of the above. But yeah, the reality is, we're rather than thinking about our social media and trying to kind of promote that and trying to get people excited when we're still effectively still a year out.
Yeah.
It's much better that we focus our efforts on actually delivering this.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And when we get closer to the time when it's time to get excited, don't worry, you'll hear from us.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, for people that want to try and find you, where roughly are you located once they're ready to surf, and when will you be looking to be open?
Just Ratho, a tiny little town just on the west of Edinburgh. It's an absolutely ideal location. Sort of just outside of Edinburgh, not far from Glasgow, in the central belt of Scotland. So really, it's for people travelling there, dead easy. The Edinburgh trams are even talking about making their way out that direction. So
who knows?
Ratho? Maybe 2050. Ratho.
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 The traditional spelling of Ratho.
There's going to be some English guy out there going, what did he say? I want to go there. But you keep saying places and they're not like they're spelt.
To be fair, even taking you around when we went up north, I looked at some of the names and I was like, we're still in Scotland. I thought that, so you've got no hope. Well, guys, thank you so much for having us. And, we definitely look forward to watching the progress and seeing it open and in action.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's been great chatting.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Gracias.
Well, thanks for that, everyone. Pete.
I thought you were going to do Dr. Nick off The Simpsons then. Thanks, everybody.
Hey, everybody. Definitely not. Well, there's a lot just happened.
A lot.
And, I don't know where to start, really. I mean...
it's just... It sounds like, to me, like what I've seen, you've obviously seen a lot more than me, and hopefully you're going to throw me some photos and videos that I can put across the top of this on the YouTube, because this one isn't video. We should have said that at the beginning, shouldn't we, really? Yeah. It's I think this is the last one that's not video.
It is, and we'll try and keep it like that where feasible as well.
But there was reasons. So when we recorded, first of all, we didn't know when we were going to be allowed to put it out. So we didn't do video for where we first recorded. We thought we didn't know where we were going to be. And then, as we say, it was split up. But it sounds like it's going to be an amazing place.
I mean, it's going to be an amazing place. And I guess before we even talk about the facility, should we start with Andy?
Go on then.
We've not even scratched the surface there. The background Andy comes with, like, you wouldn't believe. And I'm kind of learning this along the way, but he's not just what I'm saying is he's not me, and he's not just winging it. There's rhyme, reason.
He actually knows stuff and knows what he's doing.
Totally.
Yeah. But
totally.
like we said, we will do a full episode on him, like nearer the time when the place is opening. He'll have a full episode, and it'll be everything, all about his history of surfing, all about how he got into it, where he got started, and all of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And like I say, there's a lot of history comes with Andy from a sporting background, as well as, the business side and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that will be a great standalone episode, and one for people really to get their teeth into.
Yeah.
And the rest of the team. So we spoke to Mark, we spoke to Alejandro, and we spoke to Brendon. And there's so much to delve into. I don't even know if we would have the time to talk about all of it.
I think everyone, like, it's one of those ones where it's more speaking about the place, because they all explain their jobs, what they do, and all their stuff. They explain that really well. I don't think they can go in. Andy said as well, they've fallen into these jobs like they're made for them, they're all putting in their effort in the right places and getting stuff done and moving it forwards. And I mean, it's more of an episode, this, is tell you about what's coming, because it's not open till next year, it's over 12 months away. So, I mean, this episode is telling you what is to come, and the fact that you'll be able to get straight on a plane I'll be able to get on a plane at Bristol, and by the time, do you know what? I was thinking about this, right?
Yeah.
The plane to Edinburgh from Bristol, I think last time took me 40-something minutes, 51 minutes or something like that. It's not going to be too dissimilar for the time I get on the plane and land in Edinburgh and get to that place than for me to drive to the Wave, or even to drive to like Saunton.
What's interesting about that is it's 10 minutes from the airport to the site. To where it will be, and it's just so accessible. Like,
probably not so economical for me,
Well, I guess you need to get your own plane.
Yeah, because that's better for the environment.
Well, you can bring up a few surfers, I guess.
Yeah,
but what struck me as well is the fact that I think so far everyone I've met, in fact, even in the building crew, the guys on the construction site. Like, so many of them come from a surf background, or surf, or have dabbled in surfing. Yeah. And I find that intriguing, because it would be easy to just assume these are just corporate types, and it's and obviously it is about a business, because it's a business, right?
Yeah.
But, to sit in meetings and everybody's so stoked on the surf aspect, it's so easy, and people tend to seemingly go off on a tangent.
Yeah,
and chatting about surfing before someone's like, listen, we'll try to get to an achievement here, or a goal or something.
Do you know, realistically, they had the waveguard technology like 40 years ago, but it's just people like talking about surfing is why it took so long to get it done.
More than likely.
But I mean, the place looks like it's going to be amazing. And as I say, like, we'll put some pictures over the top of this, and it'll be on the website with this stuff, this episode. But exciting thing that Andy said in there, that they'll do some pre-releases at some point.
Well, I liked that. I actually didn't notice it at the point in time. It was a very subtle drop. And he probably had a look around the room to see if anyone noticed, and I didn't see it. And so there is a subtle promo going to be coming later in the year, and it will be, if you think of it, as an early bird set of options to buy sessions, basically, and reserve them early. So watch out for more of that to come.
Yeah, that'll be good.
And it's
I'm still going to try and convince him to make a UK Surf Show listener one of the first ones in there.
You got that in there.
Yeah, and I'm going to try and hold him to it as well. I'm going to try and get it. I'm going to get that in stone.
I'm not sure he committed to it.
No, he's going to. By the time this comes out, he'll listen to this and he'll think, do you know what? They're such lovely lads. Let's do it. That's what he's going to think. That's what he's going to think.
Would be great. And then, and I'm curious then, who? Let's say that lovely UK Surf Show listener is based in South Wales.
Yeah.
Who's paying for that trip? Are you paying for that trip? Are they going to come up on your plane?
Yeah. That can do it. But apart from Paz isn't allowed to enter because.
Paz is not allowed to enter.
Anyway, talking of competitions, we should probably mention the competition we've actually got running at the moment, shouldn't we?
Absolutely. So we are in when this comes out, we're halfway through, I believe.
Yeah, halfway through.
The
Ben Skinner FCS.
Ben Skinner signature fins from FCS, and that is a 2+1, the lightest 2+1 available. And yeah, I mean, what longboardist wouldn't want that?
Longboardist.
Like, I'm tempted to enter just so I can put them in my longboard.
Yeah, you keep saying you keep saying about entering the last one as well. If anyone's going to enter it, I need to enter it.
Do you know what? Something just occurred to me. I literally just started saying there, my longboard hasn't been wet for years. But what I should have said was that it's not been surfed for years, because it's now been wet because you took it out. When we
don't even start. Do not even start. It's not even a longboard. So it is not even a longboard.
It's still not been surfed. It's just now been wet.
Do you know the worst thing about this? I don't know if we've talked about it yet, because as we say, they're all like disjointed episodes where like we recorded them in Scotland. But the guys from Surf Able Scotland, and we were out with them, and I was surfing that bad on it. The thing is horrible. What is it? It's a Firewire.
It's a 9-1 Timber Tech. Yeah, so it's a performance longboard.
It's not a performance longboard. It's like a piece of dental floss, and it's absolutely awful. And I mean, I'm not a guy of small size, shall we just say, and. There's no chance, and I know a lot of shapers don't like to talk about volume, but I needed much more volume in that. Yeah.
So are you calling that a mid-length then? Is that what you think that is?
I think that's a shortboard, man. It's ridiculous.
Come on.
Yeah, but
I mean, to be fair to you.
To be fair to me, it's everyone that's I've said about the board said it's an awful board, and even you yourself say it's an awful board.
That's wrong and unfair and unkind.
All right, sorry. you say it's good because you want to sell it, and once you've sold it, you'll then say it's an awful board. It's
too pretty to sell, but no, it's a performance board, so it's for doing. It's almost like for shortboard kind of surfing. I mean, I can't do that on a longboard, so it's no good to me. But I kind of got it with the intention of thinking wave count. But actually, it's not that. It's just not. It's got so much rocker in it for doing critical turns.
Yeah, but I think the thing about it is, if you weigh more than a bag of sugar, it's no good for you.
Well, if you stop eating bags of sugar,
it's you stopping at McDonald's all the time. Every time we go anywhere, you go, "Oh, I've got Crohn's disease." Yeah, because you fucking live on McDonald's. That's why.
Why did you put this McDonald's thing on me? That was you.
It was you, man.
No,
I've got it on video somewhere. I know I have.
Do you know what I liked as well? I liked that Andy said something. He said about, because they're going to have amazing restaurants and eateries. I hate the expression eatery, but they're going to have these epic restaurants and stuff, but tailored to, us average types in society, especially you, Pete.
Yeah.
Like, I like how he mentioned the fact that in fact,
there's a Greg's and a McDonald's.
The very McDonald's you visited off the plane, which you're now putting on me, and a Greg's right next door. So, perfect way to end the surf.
Yeah.
They need to, I think there needs to be some sort of correlation with a cheese toasty shack.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Oh, definitely. There needs to be a toasty shack in there.
Mm-hmm.
I heard a disturbing story about McDonald's fries the other day, but that's something we can go into when we do a
McDonald's
bonus episode. Yeah, a McSurf.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. So that's pretty much it for this week's episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment and all that usual stuff on all the socials. If you want to be in that competition, the teaser trailer that is out there on YouTube, don't forget, just go ahead and comment and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave a comment on that post and you'll be in with a chance to win some longboard finished.
Yeah, and that competition will close down the episode after this one's released, and we will announce the winner that week and what the next comp is.
Yeah, and then don't forget, if you want 10% off at Srface Wetsuits, head over to Srface and use the discount code UKSurfShow23, and that will get you 10% off anything you order from Srface Wetsuits. Yeah, so cool. That's it. Thanks for listening. Thanks to all the Lost Shorians for coming on and chatting to us and telling us about what's going on.
Yeah, and an exciting time for surfing, and not just in Scotland, for the whole of the UK. Another facility, another for the world. Get on the Lost Shore socials, check them out, and see what's going on.
Yeah. Until the next time, take care of yourselves and each other.
He's gone, mate. Jerry Springer's gone.
He's living on in me forever.